Today we're going to talk about olive oil. Have you ever tasted olive oil and all of a sudden you get that peppery kick? Well, you know what? There's three positive attributes of olive oil. There's fruitiness, because you're getting your oil from a fruit, which is an olive. And there's bitterness, because you're getting your oil from unripe olives. And pungency. And pungency is that peppery tactical sensation that you get at the back of your throat when you swallow. Well, that's actually the antioxidants that you're sensing in the olive oil. If you were to taste olive oil and you didn't have any of that peppery tactical sensation, it's probably not olive oil, or it's old olive oil. Good extra virgin olive oil, and what it really means is olive oil that is free of defects. An extra virgin olive oil should provide you with fruitiness, bitterness, and pungency. And that's the minimum criteria. Beyond that, then you have to meet the chemical criteria as set up by the COOC, or the International Olive Oil Council. Color of olive oil is another perceived difference in things. Do not judge an olive oil by its color. You know, light breaks down the chlorophyll in your oil, and the color of your oil will be different when you produce oil from olives that are picked at different times. A real green olive will give you a more peppery, bold, pungent oil, whereas an oil made with olives that are ripe and on the verge of ripeness, when they're red or purple, and green olives will give you a more complete flavor profile. Some fruitiness, some bitterness, some pungency. You know, it takes about 50 pounds of olives to make 1 gallon of extra virgin olive oil. And that's from an olive that has pretty good oil content. You could try to make oil out of Severiano, which is called the Queen, but it has such little oil in it. And if you try to make oil when the olives are ripe, they're like little plums. They're just so full of liquid, so full of moisture. It's almost impossible to get the oil out. So we stick with the Tuscan varieties or oil varieties. You know, there are multi-purpose or dual-purpose olives. You know, the Mission olive is basically a dual-purpose olive. You can use that for table olives, and you can make olive oil out of it. And you can do that also with Ascolano. Ascolano is a fairly big olive, but yet it has a good amount of oil, and it's good at tasting oil. There's a French olive called Pinot-Clean. That's a dual-purpose olive also. Makes a very good oil, and yet it's big enough it has a lot of meat to make cured olives. You know, there are a lot of things to know, but the really thing to remember about olive oil is to use it, to use a good, fresh olive oil. There's 4 things that break down your olive oil: heat, air, light, and time. And so if you open up a container of olive oil, whether it be a bottle of 8.5 ounces, 16 ounces, or a gallon, you should use that olive oil within 3 to 4 months, because you're introducing new air. So that starts the oxidization process, which is part of the degradation or the downfall of olive oil. You know, olive oil is the only oil produced naturally. That being said, you pick the olives, you put it through the mill, it extracts the oil without the means of heat or chemicals. So it's actually a fruit juice. It's natural, so it has a shelf life. It's the only one. You could take canola oil, vegetable oil, rapeseed oil. You can take any of these oils, leave it in your cupboard, you can go back 2 years later and still use those oils. The reason is they're refined. They're refined. That means they're treated with solvents, hexane gas, you know, to extract the oil. And then you have to treat the extracted oil with a very high heat to get rid of that solvent, get rid of that hexane gas. So what that basically leaves you is an odorless, colorless, tasteless liquid. And then they have to add coloring, and they have to add flavoring. You know, it's some of these things are a molecule away from plastic. Honestly, one molecule away from plastic. You know, you have monounsaturated fat, which is the good fat that you need in your diet. That's from olive oil. Then you have saturated fat. Okay, and saturated fat is a bad fat, and that's the kind of fat you'll get in butter. And then there's trans fat. Now, trans fat is the one that's about a molecule away from plastic. It's like putting plastic in your veins. You know, trans fat is a man-made fat. They hydrogenate, oxygenate. Don't put that in your body. Would you drink motor oil? Would you drink, you know? Don't do that. We want to consume monounsaturated fat. It's a good fat that you need in your diet. It'll give you energy, help you burn other fats. Olive oil has the ability to make you feel full. Believe me, or don't believe me. I'll try again.